Hello everyone, welcome back to Universalization Academy Bengaluru. This is topic of the day. In today's topic, we'll discuss movie, myth, legends and controversy. And the movie in question is Kantara, the Legend, Chapter 1. Also the Kantara 2022 movie. So in the Kantara movie, they have shown a tradition of Bhuta Kola. So this tradition of Bhuta Kola, worship of Daivas, has been in controversy ever since Chapter 1 came along. So we'll discuss what is this controversy and we'll also connect this with anthropological perspective. We'll not go deep into controversy, we'll just study from UPSC anthropological perspective. Okay, so the topic name is Bhuta Kola truly Hindu? The hidden tribal origins of Kantara's rituals. So this is the Bhuta Kola tradition where there is a worship of Daivas. Okay, worship of Daivas in the mainly Tulunad or Kundapur region of Karnataka. And the topic also reads is Kantara, Bhuta Kola and the process of universalization and parochialization. What is this universalization and parochialization? I will explain you in the video. So why I have taken up this topic? Recently, there was a post made in X.com. The post was that the mega budget devotional film Kantara is nothing but a grand attempt to absorb and erase Dravidian Adivasi small deities by merging them into so-called mainstream Hindu gods. He also went on to say a cultural takeover disguised as cinema. This was the tweet which garnered a lot of controversy and also garnered a lot of traction. So people felt that they are trying to divide Hinduism by Dravidianism or Aryanism. They are trying to divide Hindu culture or Hindu religion by trying to portray it as mainstream and tribal origin. So we'll discuss what is this about. First, we'll discuss about the introduction. The cultural phenomena of Kantara 2022 brought the centuries-old ritual Bhuta Kola from the coastal region of Tulunadu, Karnataka into national and global attention. And the new Kantara Chapter 1 legend has taken it to international level as well. Beyond the cinematic celebration, it ignited an anthropological debate. Is Bhuta Kola a tribal ritual or a form of Hindu worship? Is Bhuta Kola Daivaradhane part of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, or is it part of Adivasi tradition? This controversy provides us a rich case study for understanding the universalization and parochialization, two key anthropological processes explaining how local traditions interact with the global dominant cultures. Okay, so first we'll understand Bhuta Kola. What is Bhuta Kola? Bhuta Kola has origins in local or tribal tradition. So Bhuta Kola is nothing but a little tradition. So in anthropology, we define traditions two types. One is little tradition, another one is great tradition. These words were given by Robert Redfield when he studied folk urban continuum, and this was taken into Indian context by Marriott. So what is this little tradition? Little tradition is a tradition of the folk. Little tradition is the tradition of local people. And what about great tradition? Great tradition is the traditions of mainstream. Great tradition is the traditions that are followed by the mainstream. Okay, so for example, all the traditions that are followed by mainstream Hinduism, which is celebrated in Bollywood, etc., are called as great traditions. What are the little traditions? These are found in the endemic regions only. They are subjected to, or they are found in only certain particular regions. They are followed by those particular communities or regions only. So those are called as little traditions. So Tulunadu, the Bhuta Kola is part of, or the Daivaradhane is part of Tulunadu. So it is practiced only in the particular endemic region. So what does it make? It makes this Bhuta Kola a little tradition. So Bhuta Kola literally means spirit play, practiced by communities like Billavas, Padambas and Pambadas and Nailikas or Nalikas. It involves spirit possession, ancestral worship and justice delivery by divine intermediaries, Daiva or Bhutas. You might have seen Kantara chapter 1 when there is a debate about ownership of the land. He says that I will not ask Daiva or like the person who is imitating Daiva, or is it real Daiva? And the Daiva replies to him, you will go to court, but that judgment will be done by me on the court's next steps. Okay, so that is what in the Tulu Nadu regions, even now, all the land debates are done or dealt by this Daiva. So that is the reverence people from Tulu Nadu hold for this Daiva. Each Bhuta represents nature, ancestors, or heroic spirits, which is deeply tied to the land, ecology, and local ethics. The rituals are conducted through oral traditions, that is, paddanas, songs, and performances, and not through Sanskrit scriptures. So, as I told you, great traditions are transferred from generation to generation through written traditions. They are written, they follow Vedic or Brahminic traditions where it is already written what should be followed, how it should be practiced, and it is transferred from one generation to another generation through literature. But whereas literary traditions, they do not have literature. Instead, they are transferred from one generation to another generation through oral traditions, through folk songs, through folk traditions. So that is why Bhuta Kola is literal tradition. Okay. So in anthropological historical evidence, Edgar Thurston and Peter Collis as well as M. N. Srinivas suggested that Bhuta Kola predates Brahminical Hinduism, belonging to the indigenous animistic belief systems of South India. Within religion, there are different type of religions. One is animistic religion. What is animistic religion? Where there is a worship of the nature, where there is a worship of anima. Anima is the larger soul. So that is the worship of animistic. So they say that Bhuta Kola predates current Hinduism. It is present even before the Hinduism was born in India. But that is the opinion of these anthropologists. Okay, this is literary traditions. Now we will understand universalization and parochialization. I will try to give you the examples of this literary traditions, universalization and parochialization. So this universalization and parochialization was studied by McKim Marriott in India. McKim Marriott in India. So all the anthropological students already know this particular person, McKim Marriott. He studies literary traditions and great traditions in a village called as Kishangarh in UP. Kishangarh in UP. So basically, what is universalization? Universalization is a little tradition of the folk letter being converted into great traditions. Okay, so what was initially part of few people or few communities is now being celebrated by the mainstream media or mainland. He gives the example of Saurati Puja. Okay, Saurati Puja. He says that this Saurati Puja was universalized into Saraswati Puja. Universalized into Saraswati Puja. He was able to observe that what was initially Saurati Puja, which was practiced by the local traditions or little folks, has been converted into Saraswati Puja, which is practiced by urban folks or greater folks. That has been converted into greater traditions. So any little traditions that is being converted into great traditions is called as universalization. Then what is this parochialization then? What is parochialization? What is this parochialization? This is nothing but reverse. That is great tradition being converted into little traditions. He studies Govardhan Puja in the Kishangarh. So Govardhan Puja was actually a great tradition where you used to worship the Govardhan hill, Govardhan mountain, which was held by Lord Krishna on his finger top. So that is the Puja of Govardhan, which was later parochialized into Govardhan Puja. Govardhan Puja. So what is this? Cow dung being worshipped here. So he says that this great tradition has been converted into little traditions. Okay, hope the concept of universalization and parochialization is clear here. Now let us apply these principles in our Bhuta Kola, our Daiva Aradhane, our Tulu Nadu traditions, our Karnataka traditions. Okay, so what is universalization? Integration of little traditions into great traditions. Universalization, as given by Redfield and Singer as well as McKim Marriott, refers to how local or tribal practices get absorbed into broader universal religious systems. In India's case, the Hindu great tradition. The Hindu great tradition is considered as a great tradition because it is practiced by the mainstream population, and the little traditions are from the local traditions, as I explained you. So universalization in Indian context is absorption of these later traditions or the tribal traditions into greater Hindu traditions. Okay, and over the centuries, Bhuta Kola underwent Sanskritization and Hinduization. Okay, what was initially animistic, what was initially done by the tribes has converted into great traditions according to this particular debate. So, Daivas were linked to Hindu gods. For example, Panjurli with Varaha, Annappa with Shiva. What is this Panjurli? Panjurli, as you have seen in Kantara movie, is nothing but an incarnation of Varaha. Who is this Varaha? Not the Vishnu Dashavatara Varaha, but it is a Varaha, a wild boar, which was present as a pet of Ma Parvati. It was present as pet of Ma Parvati, and it started wreaking havoc in Kailasa. As a result, Shiva banished it to the ground. Before he tried to destroy it, Parvati requested him to send him to the ground or earth, and he was sent into the earth, and he turned into Panjurli Deva. The wild boar, the pet of Ma Parvati, was converted into Panjurli Deva. Okay, and just behind him there was another Deva, that was Guliga Deva, who was called as Kshetrapala. He was also just a rock. This rock resulted in formation of Guliga. Who was he? He was born out of a snake. He was so hungry that he killed his mother and came out of the stomach of his mother itself. He was that hungry, and he was banished to the ground, and he was serving like Vishnu, and because of his destruction, because of his hunger, he was sent to earth, and his hunger couldn't be satisfied. His hunger initially was satisfied with the little finger of Vishnu, but later it was not possible to satisfy his hunger, so he started fighting. And when these two Daivas, that is Panjurli and Guliga, came in contact or came in clash, they started fighting, and it has to be intervened by Ma Durga or Chamunda Devi, which came in the later or climax of Kantara chapter 1. So that Chamunda Devi or Durga Devi came and made peace between them. So Panjurli Deva is the god of compassion, and Guliga Deva is the god of aggression. That is the story. Okay, so where this Panjurli or Guliga Deva, who were initially animistic gods, were connected with Vedas, were connected with Hindu traditions. So Panjurli or the wild boar with the Shiva, and Guliga with Ma Parvati, Durga, and Vishnu. And then Brahminical rituals and temple donations gradually merged with local traditions. The belief system was reframed within the dharmic cosmology of karma and divine justice. You might have seen, like, karma doesn't leave anyone. There is a perpetual give and take in Hindu mythology. That was connected with Bhuta Kola Aradhana as well. In the modern era, cinemas like Kantara plays a similar universalizing role, projecting a tribal ritual through Hindu lens, making it intelligible and appealing to the pan-India audience. Okay, so thus Kantara becomes a vehicle of cultural universalization, spreading a local tradition as part of Hindu cultural universe. Okay, and then what is parochialization? As I explained you, reassertion of local identity. Parochialization, conversely, is a reaffirmation of local or tribal traditions when faced with absorption of a dominant system. In Indian case, absorption by the dominant Hindu tradition. So, in the Kantara discourse, local communities assert that Bhuta Kola is not initially Hindu ritual, but a distinct indigenous tradition rooted in ancestor spirit worship and ecological balance. The Patri or Padamba or Pambada ritual performance comes from non-Brahmin lineage, non-temple lineages, emphasizing indigenous authority. Scholars and cultural activists highlight that the logic, purpose, and cosmology of Bhuta Kola, communion with nature and ancestral justice, remain non-Vedic. Okay, so this represents cultural resistance, a community reclaiming its heritage against universalizing narratives. This has been initially discussed by Meckim Marriott with Govardhan Puja as well, or Saraswati Puja as well, that the local traditions in some cases are able to resist the absorption of the greater traditions. So this is what is happening in this case of Bhuta Kola. You can see universalization of Bhuta Kola through Kantara movie and assertion of local communities against the Kantara movie as well. Hence, parochialization in Kantara means the revival and ownership of local spirituality as a marker of Tulu identity. Okay, and then the dialect of universalization and parochialization. Anthropologically, both processes coexist. We all know that Bhuta Kola has been absorbed or universalized into Hindu fold over the centuries and yet retains its tribal ethos. So, in conclusion, what we can say is Bhuta Kola, though it has pre-Hindu traditions, is an integral part of Hinduism. because Hinduism is not any religion. Hinduism is a way of life. So anything or everything that has a way of life have becomes part of Hinduism itself. So here Bhuta Kola is part and parcel of Hinduism. It is nothing but Hinduism itself. So we already described it. So result is in universalization, parochialization. The result is cultural syncretism. That is both traditions from the cultural or tribal traditions and the mainland or the great traditions coexisting with each other. And there is a hybrid faith system resulted out of this. That is both the tribal and Hindu traditions. So thus Kantara symbolizes the globalization of Indian religiosity, where the global Hindu or national or the local tribal or religions merge and negotiate identity. So finally, is Bhuta Kola Hindu or tribal? The scholarly balance. Tribal or indigenous views that Bhuta Kola is pre-Hindu animistic system linked to nature and versus, and anthropological assessment supported by ethnography origins clearly predate in Sanskritic Hinduism. And Hindu and integrationist view, it is a regional form of Hinduism only, nothing but a regional form, showing the inclusiveness of dharmic belief. True in practice, now intertwined with Hindu gods and temple rituals. And the balanced consensus, what as the students of anthropology, as the students of UPSC, without dwelling into a controversy, we have to see a balanced consensus here. That is, it is a syncretic tradition. That is the reality. Tribal in origin, Hindu in evolution. Accepted by most anthropologists, reflects cultural layering and not a replacement. As this particular tweet claimed that it is nothing but, he claimed here, it is nothing but a cultural takeover of disguised cultural takeover disguised as cinema. So, but what we can say is it is not a cultural takeover, it is instead, okay, it is not a cultural takeover, it is instead a negotiated identity. Okay, so it is not a replacement, but it is a cultural layering. Okay, so Bhuta Kola is neither entirely Hindu nor purely tribal. It is a living synthesis that carries traces of both the worlds. If you ask the people of Tulu Nadu, people who practices Daivaradhane, whether it is Hinduism or whether it is Sanatana Dharma or whether it is some any other religion or whether it is tribal, they will proudly say that this Bhuta Kola or Daivaradhane is part and parcel of Hinduism. That is all we need to know. We have discussed completely from the anthropological and scholarly view, and we have come into a balanced approach. So, an anthropological significance shows that there is a cultural continuity, shows how ancient animistic traditions survive within the modern religious frameworks, and identity politics reflects ongoing debates on the heritage ownership. That is, who actually owns the traditions. Next, ecological philosophy embodies a worldview where land, ancestors, and community are interlinked. And the role of media, Kantara demonstrates how cinema becomes a site of cultural negotiation, shaping national perception of local faiths. In conclusion, Kantara and the Bhuta Kola Devaradhana together illuminate the dynamic interplay between local and universal cultures in India. While the roots of Bhuta Kola lie in tribal or animistic spirituality, centuries of cultural exchange have integrated it into Hinduism. Okay, so the word assimilation should not be used here. Assimilation is replacing it together. But here, what is happening? Here, it is integrated where the originality of the traditions still remain intact. Okay, so through the twin process of universalization and parochialization, the ritual continues to evolve, symbolizing India's plural, layered civilization where the local and the cosmic, the tribal and the temple coexist and redefine with each other. So this is the anthropological study of Kantara and the Bhuta Kola and the controversy. So let us not dwell too much into controversy. Just understand the process of universalization, parochialization, and how Bhuta Kola it is a regional part of Hinduism itself, where there is integration of previously animalistic tribal tradition into the larger Hindu tradition. There is integration rather than assimilation. Okay, so this is topic of the day. Hope you like the analysis. Hope you have agree with my points. Even if you don't agree with my points, even if you have different opinion, do write in the comment box. Let us hear your thoughts and opinions. whether my balanced opinion is right or whether you have separate opinions. Be an opinionated person because UPSC respects a person of opinion. With this, I will end the video.